I know it is not easy, but control yourselves, everybody, because yes, it is yet another ThyGap podcast, yet another Thursday, ThyGap Thursdays. My name is Bogus Noog, and as always with me is...
Being Brute.
Brute, welcome back to the show. This week we're doing It's Not Easy, Control.
Freaks.
Yep.
Control freaks are everywhere.
Oh yeah.
Including us.
Including ourselves.
Because how we control people is through our socials.
Oh yeah, which is on Instagram we are.
@_ThyGap.
And on Twitter we are.
@ThyGap.
And our email is.
mindthygap@gmail.com.
And our meta is. Control yourself.
Control yourself. Nonsense. What is this? So, Bogus, it's a great topic once again. Intense.
Yep. And Brute, as we always do, very important topic to be talking about in our It's Not Easy series. And as is our want, every It's Not Easy episode starts off with us setting the context. So, Brute, what does the Google Dictionary talk about control?
So, Bogus, it's a very, very complex meaning.
Oh.
There are two categories of meaning. One is a noun, one is a verb.
It's out of control.
The noun meaning of control is the power to influence or direct people's behavior or the course of events.
Diabolical.
Okay.
Google, don't be evil.
And then verb is determine the behavior or supervise the running of. And that's it.
Okay.
Okay. So it's the noun is like the whole operation is under the control of a production manager.
What a dull ending to that.
And the verb is he was appointed to control the company's marketing strategy.
Usually they say lead the marketing strategy. I've never heard of control.
Like controlling marketing strategy. Like,
strategy.
Stop marketing it to ThyGapians. Don't do it. So anyways, so this is what the Google has thrown out. There are multiple other meanings which more or less are in and around the same meaning.
And what is our own 2 cents here, bro?
So, Bogus, I think we have not discussed this part. So we'll skip it because we want to control our episode's flow.
But I can't because I think we did discuss about this.
Okay, so...
control your memory, bro.
Yeah, I can't.
So what we talked about was 2 kinds of control. One is self-control.
Yes.
That aspect of it. And the other is...
non-self-control.
External control.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
The kind of control we try to exert on events around us or the people around us.
Yes. So there are 2 categories of control, like you said.
And that does it with the context setting, which means we move on to our next segment. Why is control not easy, bro?
The top reason is, I think as individuals, we do not know what it takes to control. You know how deep that sentence is?
No, because are you referring to self-control or
any control?
Any control.
Any control. It's not easy.
So you're saying we don't know what it takes to control, period.
As simple as that.
Okay.
Like if I ask you to control the audience, do you know what it takes?
Yeah, I mean, tough.
It's very tough.
Yeah.
Right?
It's not easy.
It's not easy. It's right there. You know, we don't know what it takes.
Don't know what it takes. But fortunately, bro, it's very easy to control our audience because when you have an audio podcast.
Yeah, it's just
amazing.
like blab or whatever.
Yeah.
But the other reason why it's not easy to know what it takes to control, I'll explain it to you in a simple video game analogy. I don't know if you've ever played FIFA.
Yep.
So in FIFA, a player can do multiple moves, right? They can dribble, they can flip the ball, they can scoop the ball, they can kick it hard, blah, blah, blah.
They can just roll on the ground, pretend like someone kicked their stomach.
Yeah, so they can dive, all these things. So the best player of FIFA is the guy who has the knowledge of how to make the character do all those moves.
The right move at the right time.
And that is how he'll control
the outcome of the
game.
Yep.
Now, that's as simple as it is. It's basically the knowledge of the context or the scenario or the event or sometimes the person that you're dealing with is what will allow you or help you leverage to take control.
Subject matter expertise.
Exactly. That's the word that I was looking for.
That's the corporate term.
You need to have that subject matter expertise to actually control something.
Right.
You need to be like really knowledgeable to have a diverse set of controlling mechanism.
Yeah.
Which brings back to the point as where do you start developing this knowledge?
Right.
right? Like you'll start reading books or like, you'll follow your mentor or whatever. But again, it's easier said than done. It's a lot of practice. You don't know where to start practicing it.
Yeah.
So again, it's a spiral.
No
So,
clear instructions.
no clear instructions.
No framework.
I think this is something which is like a blanket statement. Like,
Yeah.
there is no guidance. There is no literature that tells you that, oh, this is how you control.
Exactly.
So we don't know what it takes to control.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the reasons that I could think of was just in terms of expectations. It is so distorted.
Yeah.
In terms of expectations to reality. Like, again, this is a situation where wisdom would inform us that, hey, because human beings, some of us are control freaks, we're trying to exert complete control
Some
over... Some of us, Brute.
Bogus.
Brute, take a good look in the mirror. Some of us.
You're calling me a pushover. That's what you're calling me.
I'm calling you a control freak.
I'm not a control freak.
Oh, you said some of us, so...
I'm saying everybody is a control freak.
No, I don't
except
think
for me.
everyone is.
A lot of people are.
There are so many people who are very submissive, unfortunately, and they're not control freaks from what I've seen.
Those are the voters. Those are the taxpayers. Okay, there's a small percentage of them. They're negligible.
Those are our listeners. Hey, ThyGap, subscribe.
And share.
Yeah, lose control. But yeah, the point is, wisdom would tell you, hey, stop. Take a step back and look at nature. Look at how it works, in the universe. Look at how the system works. There is no 100% consistency. There is no 100% purity in anything.
Right.
So for you to expect 100% control over a situation or another person is completely distorted expectation, because you can never have that. And even if we know this deep down, or sometimes probably we don't know it, but at least what we observe is people tend to go into a situation wanting to control everything.
Yeah.
The aim is to always control as much as they can, 100%.
Right.
But that's never going to be possible, because ultimately you're not on an island. You're always among other people. So just as much personal agency you have in a situation, the other individual also has their own personal agency.
Yeah.
You can't overstep, or you can't superimpose your will completely over someone else that way.
Right.
That would be inhuman.
Right.
Pretty much. So if we just made peace with the truth that you can't have 100% of anything, and if we went into things with the realization that, yes, I'm trying to exert some control over this situation or over this person or some people around me, but I do realize that I can't have 100%. So I'll try to do the best as I can.
Right.
And then I'll leave the rest of it to the universe. I mean, it would be a lot less complicated world. Like, it would make it so much more easier, this whole control thing, if we just had our expectations right in the first place.
Yeah, I think setting expectations right in any walk of life, I think
Even
will solve
with yourself.
will solve a lot of problems. But unfortunately, we don't do that.
Yeah.
I think expectations is not easy. We didn't do that
Oh,
episode.
coming up soon. ThyGap, subscribe.
Absolutely. So, those are the two top reasons. But can you think of anything else which makes control not easy?
Well, in the context itself, we talked about there's a self-control aspect to it, and then there's a controlling external situations. So if you look at the self-control aspect to it, there is one point that you made, which is knowledge, subject matter expertise is important for you to be able to control something efficiently. But when you're working with other people, control freaks, sometimes I feel like the two most important things that we need to have in our armor, one is humility and the other one is empathy. In order to be able to successfully influence control or exert control on things around us. Otherwise, it'll just get lopsided, it'll go out of control, and there'll be repercussions, there'll be collateral damage that you have to deal with again.
Yeah, I think again, two rare commodities. Humility and empathy are always coming in as an afterthought. This is another thing. It's not a proactive, emotion.
Intent is also an afterthought.
It's an afterthought, just like how we are saying that it's an episode we released recently, last week to be precise. But you get the point, right? Like, empathy and humility are always something that you're like, oh, now I get you.
Yeah.
After the whole fucking thing is done. And the moment you feel that, or you realize that, you also realize almost instantaneously that, oh, you know what, I didn't control anything of that.
Yeah.
I had zero control of that situation. Now I realize
I was just taken for a wild ride without my, knowledge or awareness.
Yeah.
One example for, because empathy and humility are kind of tough concepts. So examples would definitely make it easier. One example for humility is, you can say, colloquially speaking, if you look at long-term relationships, and if that relationship goes south, Kerala. No. For a vacation.
Sri Lanka.
Yeah. If that relationship goes south, one of the parties, definitely the person who got dumped, sometimes they, of course, humanly, it is understandable that they would try to repair the situation as much as possible.
Back.
But the other party makes it very clear that, that door has closed.
Yeah.
Like that chapter is done.
Yeah.
They have moved on. So
You better move on.
You better move on. And people still find it hard to move on from that point.
Yeah.
I feel because it is that lack of humility which stops you from believing that there's nothing more I can do in this situation. It is out of my hands now.
Yeah, it's like you lost.
Yeah, and you can't accept that. It's like, no, this can't be.
Yeah.
No, I'll still keep stalking this person.
Yeah.
I'll still show up on their wedding day,
Like right in front of the mandap.
Yeah, and she will accept.
This is where I am dead against all those things saying that love is for those who persist, never give up in love.
Yeah.
True love is forever, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I think this is kind of distorting the reality. These are the things that distort the reality. What essentially happens is you take a very small proportion of aberrations and make it a norm.
Yeah.
And I have a problem with that.
Yeah.
It doesn't, there are more love failures than love successes.
Right.
And you can't keep thinking that, I live on an aberration.
Yeah.
I build my hope on an aberration. That's not how it's done.
It's going to happen exactly like the movie.
Yeah.
She's going to run away
She's going
with
to
me.
turn back.
Yeah.
In the rain.
Palat.
Oh, she laughed for my joke. Though her husband.
Yeah. She was definitely not laughing at me.
Yeah.
She was laughing with me.
With me.
Yeah.
For me. But yeah, I completely agree to that. And again, this is what I mean when I say that we don't know what it takes to control. Because if you don't know what it takes to control, you automatically don't know what it takes to let go the control.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other example that I can give of the whole control aspect, how it gets overwhelming. I saw this in my grandfather.
Okay.
He was a person who led the family, who built him up, obviously.
Patriarch.
Right? Can't say that, but,
No,
basically.
That is the role.
Okay.
Yeah. He was the male.
He is the bread earner.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And then obviously the kids grew up and they did well, and the grandkids grew up, they did well. And he realized that he had nothing to contribute.
Right.
And that took a toll on him.
Right.
He was like, oh, you don't want my advice? Oh, you don't want my help? Oh, you don't want me to talk to so-and-so person for you or recommend you, blah, blah, blah.
That happens with so many people.
Yeah.
They
and
feel
especially,
useless.
especially when you grow old and
After retirement.
And all, right? And they're like holding on to that little control. Like you change the internet connection and this becomes a huge issue.
Yeah.
They're like, how did you do it without telling me? Like, why didn't you tell me about you changing the internet? Now I don't know the password. All these things have gone haywire for me, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, dude, take it easy. I've made it better. And just all you have to do is come and ask.
Yeah.
And they can't bring themselves to come and ask.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
because they still feel that they'll control it. They want that control of patriarchal superiority or whatever.
Yeah.
That for me is another reason. Like they never knew what they were trying to control, or rather what they were trying to control has actually outgrown.
Past.
Yeah, it outgrown the reason.
Yeah.
And now they don't have any need, but they just don't know that they have to stop it.
Yeah. I've known of another senior gentleman who in his youth, and in his prime.
Are we talking about yourself at this point?
No, another senior gentleman.
Okay.
Much more senior,
Okay.
like, in his youth, in his prime, which was in the 60s or 70s.
Yeah.
He was a UN delegate.
Oh.
He was traveling to Russia.
Oh.
Like Moscow one day, London. Elite.
He's
Creme
true
de la
elite.
creme.
Yeah.
London the other day,
Yeah.
representing India on some sector somewhere. So, ultimate influence in their life,
Yeah.
like movers and shakers.
Yeah.
And now he has to face a point where children have gone away.
Yeah.
He's living by himself and now his hip bone doesn't work.
Yeah.
He has to depend on other people.
Right.
That has to be a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah.
If humility is not,
yeah.
something that comes to you naturally,
Yeah.
that's going to be a tough thing.
Yeah.
Tough time.
No, I completely get that. Yeah.
Imagine the contrast, like from
Yeah.
being that to now.
And you know what? How they ended up? You know how my grandfather ended up? He basically surrendered.
Yeah.
He went to the other extreme.
Yeah.
Like now he's like, can you turn on the geyser for me? I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure.
Right.
Right. Can you help me out with turning on to this channel?
Right. Right. They lean into that helplessness.
Yeah.
Right.
And then it's like completely complete surrender. And it's so difficult for us also to like accept this image of the person.
Yeah.
Because you've only seen in his majority of your life, you've seen him as the person who like, puts his authority across the house and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And now you're like, this person is, you don't know whether he's putting up a show or whether he's like gone too deep into that rabbit hole, like whatever has happened. And you only feel sorry after a certain point.
Yeah.
And it's a very, very unfortunate state of affairs.
Yeah. The director now needs directions.
Exactly.
And
exactly.
Such a, yeah.
And that is when these are some of the examples that come to my mind when we don't understand the nature of control. The point to that, what you said, that, if control is not coming from a place of humility or empathy, how destructive it can be to yourself.
Can we give an example for empathy? Because we talked about humility there.
The best example that I can give of empathy is to anybody who had a pet.
Okay.
Anybody who has taken up that responsibility of, owning an animal, maybe a cat or a dog. Like if I take the example of a dog, over a period of time, the more you interact with that animal, you kind of start taking things and start seeing that in other people also. It's a very difficult concept to explain. Like, see, the reason why I find this to be the best example, because language doesn't play any part here, right? So everything is feeling. Communication is only through like this non-verbal, non-spoken language. So when you come home and the dog, your pet is extremely happy and you instantly become happy. Like you're like...
Lifts your mood.
It lifts your mood and etc. Right? And then when you are sad for whatever reason, you picked up a fight with your parents or your spouse or girlfriend, whatever. When you are sad, they mellow down their energy to you because they sense that, okay, if I have to speak to him, I need to bring down my energy levels a little.
Right.
So personally, I can speak. I think I learned a lot in those relations of how you can gauge somebody's energy levels.
Okay.
And empathy is predominantly energy levels.
Yeah, empathy is just you putting yourself in the other person's shoes.
Yeah, you're able to like connect at some node.
Yeah.
Whenever people say like empathy is about feeling others and then they're like, I know exactly what you're going through. No. I feel like that's not empathy, dude.
Yeah.
When you feel others, you're like, I get where you're at right now for whatever reasons and I'm with you here.
Yeah.
So pets is the best example. Like if you see someone who had a pet for a substantial time, especially during their growing ages, through teenage and stuff, invariably you see that these people are better at empathizing than people who might not have pets.
Yeah.
There's a better chance, I'm saying. I'm not saying that it's hard and fast.
Also siblings, like people who don't have siblings versus people who grew up with siblings.
Yeah.
Their levels of empathy tends to be different.
Yeah, but the percentage of people who develop empathy in people with pets, I feel is much more higher.
Yeah.
Siblings, it can become
it's a
competitive.
Different dynamic.
It's a very complex dynamic. Again.
Yeah.
But when it comes to pets, it's almost more often than not that the person is very empathetic to others. I feel humility is kind of a byproduct of empathy.
Probably because with a pet, there's more compassion involved.
Yeah, so you become compassionate invariably to everything around you, right? And that kind of like trickles down into you developing empathy over a period of time.
How does this tie in with control? Like empathy and control?
See, it's a very simple thing, right? Like you will want fundamentally, again, like what you want to do with control is another big question.
Yeah.
Right? Like, do you want control so that you can be superior? Do you want control so that you can achieve something? Like, what is the purpose of your control? And if your purpose of control is to like communicate, or if your purpose of control is to like get a better understanding of things, right? That is where this fits in really well. So if you're a manager, for instance, you become a better man manager or people manager if you are able to develop empathy through which you develop control of everybody's emotions.
Right. No, that's a good example.
I always give elite examples, books.
Yeah,
elite.
Because the rest of it I cut it out.
Yeah. That's how I control you. I'm like, this is the point you need to keep.
One of the other purposes of control is also because you're trying to hold on to a good thing. You're trying to ensure that whatever is going good, I don't want that to get derailed or, I don't want
the safe zone.
The sustenance kind of thing.
Yeah, the comfort zone or whatever.
No, I mean, not in a negative way because comfort zone is slightly negative.
No.
I mean,
why?
Some things are going good and I want to make sure
that they keep going on.
They keep going good.
Yeah.
And then I'll try to work on other things.
Right.
That is another kind of control.
Yeah, holding on to time.
So, I mean, if you really extrapolate it to that high spiritual distinction between creation, sustenance, and destruction, control is required for all three of those aspects. Whether you're creating something, or whether you're trying to hold on to something, or you're trying to completely
end something,
get rid of it, and start anew.
Yeah.
Wow. ThyGap, subscribe.
And share.
We surprise ourselves
the level
sometimes.
At which we think. We don't think at micro level. We are macro guys.
Yeah. Micro and macro.
Yeah. You need a telescope to look at us.
And a microscope.
Yeah. So, but those are more or less the reasons. I think we derailed a little.
No, I don't think so.
I think it's a fair
I think we
derail.
actually went deeper and deeper, but it was a good thing.
Yeah. It's always a good thing.
It's always a good thing.
Going deep, bogus, is a great thing.
Depth. It's not easy.
So that is it. But why is it important then? Why the hell is control important, bogus?
Yeah, I think overall, what I can say is any objective that we have in our life, anything that we want to do with our life or with a particular effort or endeavor, there is no way in hell we are reaching that end goal, executing our list of objectives without having any control.
But of what?
Control over your plan or over your execution of that plan, over your strategy.
Or your distractions.
Yeah. Like all of these things. Like there is no way in hell we are able to do anything we want to do without having any control in the first place.
Yeah.
It seems to be as foundational as courage. The other episode that we talked about. For so many things you need courage. Like that, for so many things you need control. Like just to see through your plans.
And sticking to the process, sticking to the journey also takes a lot of control.
Yeah. And if there's any part of ourselves that thinks, okay, a lot of people have done a lot of things with my area of interest or my passion, whatever that is. But if I want to get into it, then ultimately we all want to put our own spin to it.
Yeah.
We all want to give our own flavor to it, to distinguish ourselves or to distinguish our work or whatever. None of that is going to be possible without you having any influence or control over what you're trying to do.
Yeah. Fair point.
And I was just going to say, before I was going to ask you, I was just going to say the other thing that came to mind is that's why quality control is so important, like you have to...
We need to do that at ThyGap. Quality control.
Yeah.
We're such hypocrites. Like quality control is very important, but ThyGap, we don't have any QC.
But in any process, you're manufacturing or you're constructing a building, whatever it is, without control,
there's no quality.
There's nothing's going to happen. So, Brute, why do you think control is important?
I'm still stuck on how hypocrite we are.
Everyone's a hypocrite. ThyGap, subscribe.
And share.
We're just two among you.
Yeah. Oh, the tagline came back after so long. Control, why is it important? I have like a very simple take on this. I think if you put control to practice, right, eventually the thing that you'll first realize is what is in your control, what is not in your control.
Yes.
You know the moving parts now. And it can be self, or it can also be like, it will start with your self-control, and then it will go into your vicinity, right? Your surroundings.
Yeah.
But what will that ultimately tell you is the important things about life.
Yes.
For you rather, not life per se. It's too general. But what are the important things for you as an individual?
Right.
And one of the best ways to get to know them is through controlling yourself or controlling, your overall actions. So that is why I feel control is really important. To know the important things. If you don't know what is the controllable, what are not controllables, you are always performing at a subpar level to your potential.
Yeah. And also the reason why a lot of sportsmen or cricketers keep saying, we want to control the controllables,
We only worry about the controllables.
Exactly. Because
MS Dhoni says that. Not everybody says that.
I was Sachin saying the same thing, right? Controlling the controllables.
But MS Dhoni said it so much that he said it on behalf of everybody.
He then moved on to process.
He went through the ThyGap.
He was like, first
structure.
control is not easy. Then he was like, process is not easy. No, he's stuck with process.
Yeah.
But we moved on.
Yeah, we moved on. We have better control of things. Our QC is top notch.
Yeah. But the reason why controlling the controllables is so important is because you only have a finite amount of time, a finite amount of energy. If your focus is going on something that is uncontrollable, then it's all going to waste.
Yeah. I'm not really worried about the time aspect,
Okay.
but I'm more concentrating on the energy aspect.
Okay.
You don't want your energy to be thrown out everywhere.
Yeah.
Right? You want to pick on those 3, 4, 5 things
Right.
which are really important for you. Like if your relationship is important to you, if your career or profession, your health, etc.
Yeah.
You want to like invest more energy in that.
Yeah.
And for you to come down to that, one is like you can prioritize blah, blah, blah. But the other is you should not prioritize something which is not in your control.
Yes.
It's like you should not prioritize I will only work on rainy days or like, I'll enjoy rainy days.
I mean,
This is ridiculous prioritization, right?
Yeah.
So you want to like prioritize, you want to create a better priority list. And that you will understand through controlling certain actions of yours and understanding where you're actually able to, you're able to execute control. I don't know how to say that. Is it executing?
Exert, I think.
Yeah, it's like show control, basically, right? Or have control. And once you realize that, okay, this is where I have control, that means I can either increase or decrease the magnitude of the output.
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, this is where I'm going to prioritize because I want more of this.
Yeah. And that's also something what we were talking about earlier, which is it comes back to that measure.
Yeah.
That measure aspect, because it gets so tricky because it's not just whether you have control or you don't have control. In any given situation, you need to have, in some situations, you should be having 40% control. In other situations, you should be having 80% control of what's going on.
Yeah.
How do you know, how much control you need to exert in a given situation unless you know the measure of man?
Yeah.
2-part special, ThyGap, subscribe.
And share.
Check it out. But it always comes back to that. You need to know the exact degree that is appropriate for that situation.
Right.
And then you'll be able to win or come out a winner.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, for all
Just
those...
be controlled.
Yeah. Control or be controlled. But for all those reasons, all those aforementioned reasons, ladies and gentlemen, is why we say control is not easy.
It's not easy.
Hey, thanks for listening. You can follow this podcast on Spotify to get notified of new episodes every Thursday. We're also on Apple Podcasts for those of you who have partaken in the forbidden fruit. If you liked what you heard, leave us a 5-star rating and a comment. Say anything like the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. A rating and a comment really helps us out. It's free, and I'm told that's a great price. But enough about us, huh? Tell us about yourself. Leave us a comment. Our Twitter is @ThyGap, and we are _ThyGap on Instagram.